I would like to take a moment to discuss the group presentation assignment, a quick overview here of what's expected. The first and most important part of this assignment is that you form groups. It's extremely critical that you form groups as soon as possible and not let this linger. This will be due in July, and I would suggest have a deadline of completing the whole project by the end of June, so that if there's still some unfinished ends, you will have a couple weeks to put the final touches together. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of immediately forming groups. I already have one group that's formed last week, which I'm really impressed with, and they've selected client-centered therapy as their theory that they will focus on. I'm not assigning theories, by the way. I'm allowing each group to do so. So immediately form your group and then decide among you which theories you favor as a group that you would like to consider. I would like to have 2 or 3 theories sent to me by each group, and I can assign those from your choices. However, on rare occasion, I've allowed 2 groups to have one theory that they present. So I'll have to figure that out, but I ask that you immediately form the groups and then send me a request for the theory that you would like to work on for the semester. Also, just an aside, I was looking at my YouTube tracking system yesterday, and it doesn't seem like anyone had looked at my first week asynchronous lecture. These are my ways of presenting to you materials since we're not meeting in person. So there are a number of these asynchronous lectures throughout the modules, and under each of the lectures is the PowerPoint slides that go with the lecture if you want to print those down and take notes during the time that you're in the class. Next, I want to move to an explanation of the assignment, and here we have an outline of the assignment. First, after the group selects the topic, you want to look at the overview of the client problem. So essentially, your theory will link to some issue related to the populations that the theory was developed to address. So provide a brief overview of the theoretical approach that you've selected after indicating what the client problem is that you're going to look at. For instance, you might look at adolescents who are experiencing substance abuse, or someone who's experienced trauma. So post-traumatic stress, perhaps, maybe a target population that you might work with. Or you may have geriatrics. You may have people transitioning from work to retirement. There's a whole range, the midlife crises that people may experience, depression, whatever the issue is and the population, that's what you want to kind of parse out and whittle down so that you can more tightly focus your presentation. And then once you've been able to get to that point, you will want to talk about how the approach has worked for this type of client. In other words, give examples of how people have been successfully able to deal with the issue and move on with their lives. And then, of course, an important section here is an overview of evidence-based research that supports this theory. So in the effectiveness discussion, talk again expand on how doing X leads to X. So we have some sense that, the evidence points to success with this approach with these specific kinds of issues and clients. And then at the end of the presentation, provide a brief summary. This isn't listed specifically on the assignment, but in APA style, it's always appropriate to not abruptly end, but to summarize and then move out of the work that you've done. So how do you deliver this information that you've spent a lot of time working on during the semester? You have a choice of either presenting a PowerPoint presentation or a 10-minute video that the group will assemble together, or have certain people assemble it, synthesizing the materials that have been presented by other members of the group. This is important. This is the end product of what you're doing, and it can be a very positive experience in terms of working together to synthesize and work on ideas, which should link to your end paper where you're going to do your own theory of therapy and technique, and that certainly will be based on the experience of developing this PowerPoint and the theories that you favor over the course of the semester. So I encourage you to kind of use this as a link as well to the next assignment in terms of your own personal experience. And next, we will look at the presentation summary sheet, which will be the next slide. But basically, each presentation will be uploaded to the assignment site. I will also attempt to set up a discussion posting site for you to upload your presentations so that each of the students in the class may see the other students' presentations. Last year, the students stated that they would have liked to have the opportunity to see the other presentations. At the time, I had only linked it to the assignment site where I was the only one that saw them. So that way, all of you can look at the other assignments and presentations and see how well people have presented ideas. And if perhaps two groups may have the same, which may be rare, you can kind of compare and contrast by looking at the two what the gaps that one had maybe missed, the other included. So I will explain in the next slide the presentation summary, which is an individual sheet that each of you will fill out, and then on the assignment side, everybody will upload their own summary sheet. This helps me understand what your involvement was in the work of the group for the semester, and I will explain that in a little more detail in the next slide. What we have here is a copy of the group presentation summary of your contribution form, which is the form that you each of you will individually upload to the presentation assignment, documenting what your involvement was in the project that your group had completed. So you'll notice here that there are different percentages that you might indicate for developed rationale for the problem. In other words, what percentage of that did you write if several people were writing it? Or wrote overview or part of a section. So you want, again, did you do all of it? Did you do some of it? And then indicate on the far right two columns how many hours and minutes you contributed to that part of the presentation. As you go down, you'll notice that there's theoretical approaches and methods that people will be working on, a literature review, evidence-based discussion, technical contributions as well, such as who proofread or reviewed the video, or who edited the presentation format for the completed document. In other words, each of those sections I would like you to look at in terms of your involvement. This also will help you as a group break down the presentations so that you're aware of what areas you need to be covering as part of the project. And then at the very bottom, you will notice that in the two columns, there's a total. So total the amount of hours and minutes you contributed to the presentation. That's basically what I would like you to do, and as I say or said earlier, I have placed this on the assignment page for this assignment. If you scroll down, there's the form there to copy, or if you want to go to Modules Week 7 at the bottom, you'll also find this form there. I wish you every success in completing this presentation. Last year's presentation, even though it was chaotic in getting people to do this on time and complete it, were high quality presentations. So even if you work in a remote area that you're not all able to get together, use Google Documents or other online methods or tools that you can assemble the project together. And I think it's important to select at least one or two leaders to help manage the project, so that would indicate a lot of hours to whoever is going to do that as well. Anyway, I wish you the best in completing this, and I look forward to your elegant work.